In order to make a lot of money trading, you must first be able to pick the right stocks. If you choose wrong, you lose money, while everyone else gets rich without you. And picking the wrong stocks won't just make you lose money. It will destroy your confidence and cause you to have extremely large losses that you will never recover from, emotionally or financially. And when that happens, you may never trade again. So today I'm going to teach you my system for finding and picking the best stocks for swing trading and day trading. A system that is so easy even my 3-year-old son can do it. And the best part is that it's 100% free. So sit back, relax, and get ready to soak up some knowledge. The way that we're going to find these stocks to trade is by using a scanner. And the scanner we're going to use is finviz.com. And the reason we're going to use Finviz is because Finviz is a free scanner. It's completely free. Now, you can use these same settings with any scanner. You can use it with TC2000, TradingView, whatever scanner you use, as long as it's good, it should be capable of pulling up the same stocks we find on Finviz. All right, now, if we go to Finviz right here and we look at the top of the screen, the top near the left, there's a thing called Screener. We're going to click on Screener. All right, then before we do anything else, we're going to come over here to the top right of the screen, somewhere here in the top right area, and click on this All button. All right, what that's going to do, it's going to bring up a lot more criteria for us to scan. Now, we're going to have to scan for a few different things. There's a multitude of variables you can scan for, but what we're trying to do right here is we're trying to find stocks that are currently in play, that signaled us today that there's an extra amount of volume and that there's moving a high percentage. And what that's going to do, it's going to give us stocks that are in play that we can actually trade, like enter tomorrow when the market opens, or in the next couple days or weeks if it gives us some sort of signal other than it did today. Now you can see right here above all these symbols that it says number 1 out of 9,481 stocks. So we're going to filter through these 9,481 stocks and we're going to get a very small number of stocks, probably under 100. And these stocks are going to fit the specific criteria that we input into this scanner. Okay, so the first of the criteria that we're going to search for is volume. If you come over here to the right of your screen, the very far right, somewhere down here near the bottom of these settings, you click on average volume, okay? Now we are going to put over 1 million. Now, keep in mind, you can change these settings, but if you change the settings and you don't narrow them down so drastically, you're going to come up with more and more results to search through, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, but you don't want to go too far, right? We don't want to get a big amount of stocks and have to sort through tons of stocks because we want these specific criteria for certain reasons, okay? Now, we want volume and we want the average to be at least 1 million because of liquidity, okay? We want to be trading stocks that actually have a decent amount of volume that are going to allow us to get in and out at the price that we want to get in and out of, okay? Let's take a look at this DWAC, for example, right? DWAC actually used to have a very high average volume when it first released onto the market, okay? When it first IPO'd, DWAC back here had an average volume of around 6 million shares, okay? Now DWAC's volume is decreased and it's around 200,000 shares per day. So if we tried to trade DWAC, we can take a look at it. If we look at these 1-minute candlesticks, okay, on DWAC, the spread right now is the ask is at 1760 and the bid is at 1735, okay? So that's a really big difference. And if you take a look at this candle right here, this big, large green candle, okay, you can see that the low of that candle was 1735 and the high was 1757. So probably even during the day, the spread was very high at certain times. And the problem is if you tried to exit this thing. So let's just say that you tried to buy this at 1746 right here on this green candle. You happen to get filled, all right? And then let's just say you set your stop limit. Let's just say you set a stop order to get out of the stock at like 1743, okay? This could have actually filled you somewhere down here around 1733, depending on how many shares were being traded at the moment. And it could have been even a lot worse than that. If we go back on this thing, I'm sure you can see how big these candles can get, up or down, both directions. So what can happen is, if you set a stop loss at like 1736 and you want to get out of the trade, well, you may end up waiting 5-10 minutes to get out, and when you exit, it may just blow right past your stop and give you like a 2 or 3 times the amount of loss that you actually wanted to get. So you don't want to be trading stocks with very low volume. Now for swing trading, it's not such a big of deal, because swing trading, you're usually not trading such small fluctuations in price, but for day trading it is. And you can even see that this doesn't even hardly make patterns, right? Sometimes it looks like it's kind of liquid, and then sometimes you get these little flat bars where nothing was traded, and you cannot really trade that successfully, okay? So you have a big amount of risk here on these stocks. All right, as we start getting to stocks with more and more volume, you're going to see that the bigger the amount of volume, the stock starts to look a little bit more liquid. You have a lot of price action going on almost every second or every minute, and your spreads are a lot smaller usually, okay? We start going up to higher volume stocks like this Futu. You can see what the candlesticks start to look like now. They're starting to actually look a lot more uniform. They're moving smoothly. You can get in and out of this at the exact price you want. Personally, I want to see at least 1 million shares average volume, okay, every day. If you're swing trading, you could probably get away with like 300,000 to 500,000 shares average, depending on how many shares you're trading and depending on the stock. But it will always benefit you to have a higher amount of volume, and I'll explain to you why in a second here. So let's just say we go back to our scan settings right here. So we're going to start with searching for stocks with an average volume over 1 million shares. So if you come back over here to the far left near the bottom of this filter and you click on this relative volume right here, and I like to search for at least over 1.5. So what the relative volume means is that if the stock trades on average 1 million shares a day, today all the results that pop up are going to trade on at least 1.5 million shares volume, okay? So what it means is there's an excess amount of volume today. Something happened in the stock where volume was pushed into the stock. It's higher than average, which usually gives a good indication that something is occurring in the stock, some sort of news catalyst or fundamental catalyst that is driving people into the stock, okay? Now that could be positive or negative. So that's the second criteria we want to find. So the third criteria that we're going to want to put into our scanner is percentage change. Now on Finviz, that's known as performance. So if you come over here to the second column, about midway down to this performance section, if you click on this and put where it says any, now we're given options to either have negative performance or positive, okay? Now I'm going to stick to today plus 5%. All right, and you can see already that we've narrowed down from over 9,000 stocks to a total of 21 stocks, okay? Just by putting in the average volume over 1 million, the relative volume at over 1.5, and the percentage at today above 5%. Now, the next thing you want to do after you have these settings is you can modify the scanner to find the stocks with the exact price that you like to trade. Okay, for my personal preference, I don't like to look for stocks under $5. I don't have too much interest in them. I do like to trade some stocks under $5 occasionally if the criteria are perfect, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about gapping stocks and how to find them. But for the most part, for this scan, I'm going to concentrate on stocks from $5 to around $600, $700, okay? So this you can't put in an exact price range. If you were using something like TC2000 or like a different scanner, you can put in an exact price range. I'm sure if you paid for this scan, you could probably do it, but we're just going to search for stocks over $5. Okay, now instantly, we have narrowed down 9,000 stocks to 9 stocks total right now. There may have not been a lot of movement today in the market, okay? But some days this scan will pull up over 100 stocks. Some days it'll pull up 50. Some days it'll pull up 10, depending on how strong the market is, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the charts real quick. I'm going to click on this charts button right here in the middle, underneath all the scan settings. Right here in this box says charts. I'm going to keep it on the daily charts because that's what I want to see. And you can see right here, you can take a quick look at these stocks, what their daily charts look like, and then you can go from there and see if you're willing to trade these, if you think they're interesting or not, and if you are, then you can go ahead and put them on a watch list. Okay, so let's take a look at this HIMS right here, okay? It This just kind of looks like it's breaking out right here. Held the moving average is breaking out. So let's take a look at this chart. Now, if we scroll down right here, you can take a look at all the news articles that have came out or that are listed on this website about this stock, okay? And what this is going to do, it's going to kind of help you find a catalyst. Now, if you cannot find a catalyst down here, can't find any kind of news or anything, you might want to take a look at this earnings. And you can see right here near the middle of the screen, it says earnings. That's going to tell you the last earnings date it has. The last earnings this had was on November 6th after the market closed, or it's going to show you the next upcoming earnings if it's pretty close. So earnings was not the catalyst, at least not today. And then you can see right here on December 4th at 9:15 a.m., it says Him and Hers launches holistic weight loss program to break the endless cycle of weight gain and loss. So you can take a look at this, click on that article, check and see if there's any sort of relevance, check and see if maybe this was the catalyst. And you can also do like a Google search. All right, Google search or search different websites to try to find out if this has like an actual catalyst behind it, because a lot of times if there is some sort of catalyst, it may help propel the stock higher. All right, so what I like to do is take a look at the charts, take a look at the catalysts, and this actually doesn't look too bad right here. This stock moves 74 cents, which isn't great, but it's pretty good for a stock that's only $9, okay? So this is definitely going to be a tradable stock, all right? You can take a look at the statistics down here. So you can see right here the average volume is 2.6 million. Today it traded 5.6 million, okay? So it's not bad, and this actual chart right here doesn't look too bad either, right? This is kind of like almost like a cup and handle, right? You can see this big cup right here. You've got the handle consolidation, breaking over multiple resistance levels on heavy volume and a higher than average range, okay? Another thing to note that is if you don't pull up a lot of stocks, like on a day like today, maybe the market wasn't very strong, you can also lower this average volume to over 500,000. That'll still give you stocks that had an average volume over 500,000, but today they had at least 1.5 million, okay? And that kind of gave us a little bit more results. Now we have 14 stocks on the list, okay? And also what you can do is you can keep this at 1 million and you can change this today plus 5% to today minus 5%. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to pull up a lot of stocks too that actually moved lower today. And maybe you're into shorting. If you're looking for stocks to short, this may give you some good results, or it may even give you results for stocks that are maybe pulling back and you can look for entries to buy the dip. All right, so now I'm in TC2000. And these are the 9 stocks that I pulled up on the FinViz scan within TC2000, okay? Now, I've just got them sorted with percentage change right now. And you can see this POL, right? This is a decent pattern. You can see right here that this would have actually popped up on the same scan on December 20th. If we would have ran this scan on December 20th, it would have actually closed above $5. So right here on this big thrusting candle, it would have actually came up on the scan, and you can see that after that thrust it pulled back, held this support level, this 50 moving average, and then started to move higher, okay? And then you can look at mRNA too. This would have actually pulled up on the scan on this December 14th. Even though it closed lower than it opened, it probably still moved, over 10% that day even after it closed. So this would have came up on the scan as well, because it was 10% higher than it closed the night before. And then you can see right here, it did the same thing. It pulled back, held the moving average, and now you're moving higher, right? And this is the second day that it's actually had a big thrust in volume. So that means the volume is slowly starting to increase. Now, what I like to do is I like to do this scan every day, okay? So even if there wasn't the greatest candidates today, which there is some decent ones, like you can see right here, this is kind of like a base breakout. Right, you can see this was kind of resistance. This stock is trying to break over resistance. You can see that slowly right here, you've had a few different days where the volume has kind of increased within this area. So maybe this thing continues higher, this HE. It is a gap down. It gapped down back here, put in this base right here, and now it's trying to break back over that. So this could actually travel higher back up to this 200-day moving average. Not for sure if it's going to. But this is the kind of stocks that you want to be trading, right? Like HE moved $1.21 today, and it's a $15 stock, okay? POL moved 52% today, $3.15, and it opened at 580. All right, it opened at 580 and closed at 918. So that moved like quite a bit. I guess moved. So that moved $3.15 today. Okay, so mRNA moved $13 today, a total of 13%. All right, so this is how you're gonna find the biggest percentage movers on the market. Now, if we would have lowered the volume even more, the average volume, we may have found more stocks moving higher, but they're probably not going to be tradable in the sense of like day trading. It's going to be very risky to day trade them. And swing trading, you could probably trade some of them, but I like to be in the high volume stocks because that's where a lot of people are as well, right? That's what's going to push the stock higher. And you can see how clean this chart was on mRNA today, okay? Like, look at this very clean move. Like, this was actually a small little 1 minute bull flag right here. And after it made this initial push and broke higher, like just off this one flag pattern, it moved $8.32, all right? It's very clean, a lot of volume. You can get in and out of this thing wherever you want. So you don't have to worry about entering and then taking a big loss, okay? So now that you come up with all these stocks on your list, every day you're going to have more. And what you need to do is start adding these to a watch list, okay? So I make this initial watch list. You're going to find the stocks you like and you don't like based off of support and resistance levels, based off technical analysis, based on patterns that you like to trade. And then you are going to narrow it down by taking these stocks off the list if you don't like them and adding new stocks in the next days, right? So tomorrow I'll run the same exact scan again and I'll come up with more stocks and then I'll add those to this list. As time moves forward and I start seeing that maybe like the stocks die down again, right? Like we talked about DWAC earlier. DWAC, you could see like when it gets a big thrust in volume, like 2.1 million shares, but then the next few days, volume kind of dies down again. Well, then I'm not too concerned with that at this moment. So I would probably just, if this would have thrusted this day and came up on my list, let's say I put it on the list right here. So I put DWAC on the list right over here when it thrusted upwards. As it started dying down and when it broke back below these moving averages, then most likely I would have just taken this off the list, right? This isn't something that I'm interested in anymore. And if it does happen to push higher, I'll catch it on the scans because as the volume starts increasing and it starts moving higher, it's going to continue to show up on the scan. This is how you're going to stay in tune with trending stocks and stocks that are going to make massive moves and make the best moves and that are liquid. Okay, so you're going to narrow this 9,000 stocks down every day to a small amount of stocks that are actually in play. Okay, in play is what we say when they are being traded actively by swing traders and day traders. And every day you're going to add more stocks to this list. So tomorrow I'm going to run the same scan and then I'm going to add those stocks to this list. Then the next day I'm going to run a scan. I'm going to go through those stocks, find the stocks that I like, get rid of the ones I don't, and I'm going to come back to this list and do the same thing. I'm going to run through it, and sooner or later you're going to have a very big list, maybe a couple hundred stocks, maybe less, depending on how many you get rid of, how many you like, and it's going to help you narrow down stocks that you want to trade, either swing trading or day trading, okay? Now this is the first way, the first method of finding stocks to swing and day trade. Now there's another method that I use to find stocks that are gapping. So every day there's going to be stocks gapping in the market. Those stocks are going to be like these stocks were today, okay? Like today, the ZIM was gapping. We would have caught this thing before it made this move today. We would have caught it in the pre-market. So in order to catch the stocks on these days, like this one right here on December 15th, this big day, and on this day right here on December 22nd, and today, we run what's called a gap scan. And we do that in the pre-market every day. So tomorrow we're going to run a pre-market scan and we're going to find these stocks that we can trade right then. So when we trade tomorrow, there's going to be a combination. We're going to find some of these stocks that look interesting, like they may continue to trade. Like this HE tomorrow may continue to move higher. It may have another big day. So we're going to keep this on the list for tomorrow. And then this IRWD, same thing, mRNA may continue to move tomorrow, so we'll have a few of these on the list, and then we're going to run our scan in the pre-market, find stocks that are gapping with catalysts, and those we're going to be our primary day traders tomorrow. And some of those may even give swing entries. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to run the pre-market scan, and I'm going to show you how I do that and how I find the stocks gapping to trade during the day. Okay, so we're here in the pre-market, and I'm going to show you how to scan for these gappers that we want to trade that are going to be in play today. These are the primary stocks that I'm going to trade today because they usually have a catalyst and they're going to be moving on ultra high volume. And a lot of times, well, I would say 99% of the time, these will be the stocks that make, for the most part, the biggest moves today. All right, and this is what we're going to primarily want to be day trading, this in combination with some of the other stocks that we found on our previous lists. So when we go to the pre-market and we start scanning, I usually want to start scanning around 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. And what that's going to do is just going to help me pick up some of the early movers, kind of see what's going on, see what's gapping, give me time to sort through my lists, mark support and resistance levels, and kind of analyze these stocks and pick them. Because what I'm going to do is just like we did before, we're going to create an initial list. Then we're going to filter through those and pick the ones that we think are going to perform the best based on technical analysis. So that kind of gives me time to do that and start getting some of the early movers, because some days there may be 100 or more stocks if the market's busy or strong, and sometimes there's going to be a lot less. I usually stop scanning around 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 to 8:45 a.m. Eastern, because after that time, most of everything has been added, and if there's anything else, it's usually not of importance to me, because the main stocks that I'm going to be trading are going to register on the market before 8:30 a.m. Eastern. So we get to Trader View, and again, this is free. What I would do is just type in like a stock symbol, go to up here to the search bar at the top of your screen, and then type in SPY, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to this time frame in the top left of your screen next to the stock ticker, okay? Now, if this is on day, it's, at least for the free version, they're probably not going to let you scan extended hours. At least I don't know how. TradingView is not my primary scanner that I use. Actually, I use TC2000, but this is a free way that you can scan, and it still works great. So what you're going to do is click on this day button right here where it says D. Come down to like a 30-minute chart, okay? Once the 30-minute chart is open, you're going to see these different colors appear, right? This is after hours, where this blue area is, this whole blue column, and this is pre-market data. In order to see the pre-market data on your chart, you're going to need to come over here to this button on the bottom right of your chart that says ETH, or it'll say RTH. Most likely it's going to say RTH. If it does, just click on it and then click on extended trading hours, okay? Next, you're going to come to the bottom left of your chart where it says stock screener, and you're going to click on that, okay? Now that's going to bring up the scanner. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to filter this, okay? Now, I'm going to filter to try to get stocks that I like to trade, okay? Now, you can trade in an exact price range. Like I said, you can look for stocks from $10 to $30. You can look for stocks from $50 to $100. It's up to you. What I like to do is just make a basic scan and look through all the stocks pre-market. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to keep all these settings pretty much the same, okay? I'm just going to make sure that all this is checked, okay? Primary listing, current trading day, the volume, we're just going to keep that around 50,000 to 50 million, okay? Average daily volume, and here's another thing. So you can change the average daily volume as well. And if you want to be trading stocks that are fairly liquid, then I would at least put 500K, okay? So right here on this average volume, 30 day, put 500K. Now 90 day is probably not too important, because if the stock has recently increased in volume and has an average volume of 500,000 shares over the past 30 days, that's really what we're looking for day trading. Okay, so make sure that the average 30-day volume is 500,000 shares to maximum 50 million. Okay, everything else I pretty much keep the same. All right, and then down here, you're going to find one that says pre-market volume if you keep scanning. Okay, in pre-market volume, I want to keep mine set at 50,000 to 50 million. Okay, 50,000 shares pre-market is kind of give us a good idea of what's probably in play. If the stock has less than 50,000 shares pre-market, that's okay if it has a high average daily volume, but that's not going to show a lot of interest, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to exit all this, and then one more thing right over here on the far left where this column sets button, click on this and come down to extended hours, okay? That's going to give you all these columns. And then we're going to make sure that right here to verify that the pre-market volume on this column is set at 50,000 shares to 50 million. What we're going to do is once this scan is running, I'm also going to keep the price right here. I'm going to click on this price button and click above. And for me, I want stocks above $2, okay? Now what that's going to do is make sure I'm getting all the stocks above $2 and eliminating all the stocks below $2, okay? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to come over here to pre-market change, and I'm going to click on pre-market change, and I'm going to select everything with a gap over 3%. If it's close, like 2.7, that's fine. Right click this and add all to selected watch list. That's going to add them over here on the right side. Then I'm going to select it again, the pre-market change button. I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to select everything under 3%. And again, if it's at like 2.8%, that's fine. Right click that, add all to selected watch list. Now that's going to give me an all right amount of stocks. If we take a look at some of these charts, you can see that this is gapping down in the pre-market, okay? And then PTON is gapping up. It closed over here around $5 and now it hit a high of around like 605 during the pre-market. And then these are what we're looking for, okay? Now, once I have all these selected, if I don't find that there's a lot or there's too many, you can always narrow these results, right? If it's a day where there's hundreds of gaps, you can narrow these results. And if you also want to see more stocks gapping, you can also select this pre-market volume filter again, and you can change this to like 20,000 shares. All right, if you change this to 20,000 shares, most likely you're going to get a lot more stocks, okay? So you can look right here and see after we changed it to 20,000 shares pre-market volume, we got a few more, and we can just add those to the list again, right? Now, the thing with TradingView is only going to let you add around 30 stocks if you're on the free plan, the 30 stocks to your watch list. Now, that's more than enough. So what you can also do, instead of just adding those all to the watch list, you can just kind of run through here and look at the stocks you like and only add the stocks you like as an alternative, okay? So this is how you find the stocks, the initial stocks you're going to trade, and then you create the watch list, and you're going to actually use these stocks to day trade today. So let me go back over to TC2000 since I already have my main watch list made over there, and I'll run through these on a daily chart. So what I'm going to do is after I have my initial list of stocks made, I'm going to come back over here to my initial list. I'm just going to sort by percentage change, and I'm going to start going through the list and flagging any stocks that I think are promising, okay? Based on the daily chart primarily and based on support and resistance levels that I see, okay? So right here, MINM has 10 million shares volume, okay? The average volume is around 4 million, so it's got a decent average volume, but it looks like some days there's absolutely no volume. Recently there has been, but a lot of days there isn't. So this is something you kind of need to be careful with. MINM, it's gapping up. Closed yesterday at 171. It's already hit a high in the pre-market of 505. So I'm going to select that. OMGA. I'm going to select this. Same thing. Look at the volume right here. Average volume of around 250,000 shares. So this is another one we have to be careful with. After it opens, if there isn't at least like 500,000 shares being traded in the first 5 minutes on this type of stock, then I won't even trade it. A lot of these low price stocks will halt. Okay, so they aren't my favorite. JFBR looks okay. ARN. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through these like this. And I'm going to find all the stocks that I like. Like something like this SPRC. It's gapping. You can see right here. This white bar is the gap. But I don't like it because there's not a high enough average volume. So I'm just going to not select that. And I just won't put it on my regular list. All right, QS looks okay, but it's gapping up inside of a range. You can see these moving averages overhead may act as resistance, so it's not my favorite. I'll keep it on my initial list, but it probably won't make my next list. Okay, MNSO, this actually looks pretty decent. You can see there's some tails right here, but it's gapping back over the 200-day moving average after it already tried recently. It's got a decent average volume, 2 million shares. Average volume, and then today in the pre-market 70,000 shares. You can see it's gapping up. So when I find something like this that I like, what I'll do a lot of times is I will go back to FinViz like I talked about before, and I'll type in the ticker symbol, on Finviz just to see if I can find any news or anything about this stock, okay? So I don't see any recent news. Now, if I don't see any recent news there, what I'll do is I'll look up the actual name on Google, see if there's anything. So you can see right here in the last 2 hours, there's some kind of news that came out, okay? Let's see what it says. So it's going to release earnings on February 27th. So there's nothing special about this. There's probably some reason it's moving. I'm not catching it, but if it has a lot of, and it could just be that it's got a good daily chart. I personally am not too concerned with news. Like if there's a good daily range in price, there's good average volume, it's got a good gap with good pre-market volume and good technicals, I'm not too concerned with news or anything that's driving the price, okay? I just want to trade the good daily chart because whether this has news or not, it's going to trend higher if it's got a good chart, okay? And it's going to be tradable. You can see right here on this day of like December 28th, it had a change of like $1.29 or something, okay? So that's pretty decent for a $21 stock. It's got good average volume. Looks like the daily chart's okay. Pre-market volume's looking all right. Intraday chart looks okay. Not my favorite, but like here's another one, CPE. Average volume around 2 million. It's already got 350,000 shares traded in the pre-market. It's breaking over this 200-day moving average. And to me, this is kind of like a little flag right here, right? You have this move higher, and then you've got this flag right here, right? And now you've got the move higher right here. So this may be tradable too. And just because they're gapping up doesn't mean they're only going to go up. That's a misconception. A lot of times these are actually going to go lower after the stock market opens. Sometimes they'll go lower and fade the gap completely. Sometimes they'll move lower, then move higher. Sometimes it will just move higher. The way we trade them is we look for patterns within these stocks and we trade them like that based off the patterns. And then you can see some of these stocks that we found the other day with that other scan, with our strength scan. This was one of the stocks that was picked up out of the few stocks, right? I think it was this day we did the scan and it's continued to move higher, right? And now, like I talked about before, we would catch it on the scanner. Well, now ZIM is gapping up again. So this would have showed up yesterday and today on the gap scan as well, okay? And so what we'll do is we'll make our initial list here by selecting all the stocks that interest us, ignoring all the rest that don't interest us. Then we'll create another list by moving all those, and I like to name this my focus list because this is what I'll be focused on, January 4th. So I also showed you how to create your other scan based off of stocks that moved that day. We did the scan at the market close, and we found stocks that were strong to swing and day trade. Well, I've done this again yesterday, and I've added those stocks to the same list as before. And then what we can do is we can actually go through some of these and see if any of those look promising as well. But for the most part, if they're gapping, they're going to show up on the scan. But we can also just check out their daily charts and see if they look promising. Like this mRNA. This was when we did the scan, this big day. Yesterday, it didn't do much. And then today, it may actually break out and go higher. It may go lower. But we can still keep this on the list if we want to take a look at it during the day, right? But this is not going to be like main priority, but it's good to have on the list in case. So that's how we scan and choose the stocks intraday in the pre-market for stocks that we're going to actually trade today. Then a lot of those stocks that we chose today that were on our gap list may end up making big moves, and tonight when the market closes, we'll catch a lot of those on the scan as well, and they'll be added to this main list again. And then what we'll do is on this main list that we make, we'll keep going through here and then following days and weeks, adding to the list, and then removing stocks from it. And what this is going to do is if you slowly do this and do this over time, you will be able to be capturing moves in trending stocks. You'll be able to find stocks that are trending and that move on heavy volume and that make big moves in short amounts of time. By following this system I showed you, by scanning pre-market and finding gaps to trade, that's going to give you the best stocks to day trade. Okay? And by scanning after the market closes, this is going to find you the best stocks to swing and day trade. But if you're primarily a swing trader, you don't day trade, then this is going to give you a good idea of stocks to trade once you start developing your list. It may take a couple weeks or a couple days, but as you go through these, a lot of these stocks are going to reappear on the list. There will be new stocks that appear, and then a lot of these you'll take off in the future. And if you really want to narrow them down to certain price ranges and certain market caps and things like that, you're very welcome to, and that will actually improve your odds of trading. As you track your results, moving forward, the stocks that you trade best will start to be more prominent, and that's really what you want to start focusing on. Stocks within certain sectors, stocks within certain prices, stocks that you trade good. Then that will also help you narrow your list down, okay? Like if I wanted to narrow this list down and just take off everything under $10, well, I could eliminate all these stocks right here. Simply just delete them off the list. And then now my list is narrowed a lot more, right? Instead of having 45 stocks on it, I'll only have 23. Then you start narrowing down certain volume, or you narrow down certain industries, right? Like only biotechs if you only trade biotechs. And the whole point is that this is going to give you good stocks to trade that you can rely on to make swing trades and day trades. I really enjoy trying to help people learn how to trade. So if you're struggling with anything, do not hesitate to reach out. And also, if you have any questions or comments about this video, if you want to see more in depth of me actually going through these stocks and creating pre-market watch lists and showing you exactly how I do that on a daily basis, I can do that. I'm here to teach you whatever you would like to know about trading. So don't hesitate to reach out or leave a comment telling me what you would like to see. All right. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.